nowadays and so I and all chuck to know love and peace. Let's say thanks to the police all around, especially in town. No one couldn't walk alone. Town was like a battle zone. But nowadays and so I and all chuck to know love and
Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. Of course, on Mondays, the TTPS join us to discuss all the things that are pertinent in the country. And this morning, we welcome Inspector Kurt Callender joining us via Zoom this morning to chat a little bit about preparations as it's day one back to school, parents and children and their safety as it regards to back to school. Good morning to you, Inspector Callender.
A pleasant good morning to you, sir. Morning to all who is in studio. And a pleasant good morning to all of Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you so very much for joining us this morning. How are things looking on the outside there as parents and students get ready to go back to school this morning?
Well, as you know, that school resumes today, so it's very heavy traffic on the nation's roads. On my way to Port of Spain this morning, and you can see so many parents and children out in the road very early this morning, ensuring that their children to school on time.
Most definitely. And of course, you know the traffic started early. What advice would you give to parents getting ready for that back to school run this morning if they're not already on the way? What advice do you give them in terms of making sure that they prepare the children to be safe heading back into this new semester?
Well, I think it is very important for the parents to properly brief their children as it relates to safety and security when they leave home, on their way to school, whilst they are at school, when school is over, and also on their way home. So some of the safety tips that we would encourage, we would start with the children. You would always have a situation, especially in this situation, where a child will be going to a new school for the very first time. So they may not be aware of their surroundings. They may not know anyone from that school because it is a new school. So we want to encourage the children to be aware of their surroundings, to know their surroundings, right? And in the event of any danger, we also want to encourage the children, if they see something, to say something, to confide in the security officer, their teacher, a counselor, or some other trusted adult within that school environment.
Now,
and as far as the parents, sorry?
No, continue, Inspector, when I finish.
Right, so, and of course, as far as the parents are concerned, many parents may have taken on that mantle and that responsibility of dropping off and picking up their children from primary school. And they are now asking this child to travel on their own, eventually, to and from secondary school. So it is important to properly brief them as to where they can get that public transportation, how to cross the route properly, communicate with them when they arrive at school, when they are leaving school, and when they arrive at home. So briefing your children properly is important.
Inspector, one of the things, of course, you're touching on is going to and from school. One thing also that we are looking forward to is the heightened safety, given the recent announcement that came that some police officers are going to be posted to some schools in Trinidad and Tobago. Admittedly, though, it may have, let's say, ruffled some feathers with some parents who may be a bit concerned. What are your words to those parents this morning?
Well, I want to go as far back as the first Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Eric Eustace Williams. He did indicate that the future of the nation is in the book bags of our children. Sadly, you would be quite concerned as to some of the things that we have been discovering in the book bags of the children. We have to be realistic and not stick our heads in the sand and come to the point that our schools are not as safe as we would like them to be. And a child must go to school knowing, thinking, and feeling that they are safe. These 95 police officers who graduated last week from the police academy, they would be partnering or working alongside community-oriented policing section officers to go into these schools. And I want to give the parents the assurance that these officers were highly trained. They were properly trained in areas such as the children justice procedure. They were trained in de-escalation techniques, conflict resolution, community-oriented policing geared specifically for schools, for police officers in schools. So we are here to partner with you, to work with you, to work alongside you, to create that safe environment for your child. We are here to ensure that things don't get out of hand or escalate in those schools, but rather to adopt that proactive approach whereby let us have a conversation before it reaches to a confrontation. So that is the level of assurance I want to give to the parents of these children who may have some concerns as it relates to police officers being in school. This is nothing new, by the way. Community-oriented policing sections officers from the community policing unit has been in secondary schools and primary schools in Trinidad and Tobago for over 20 plus years now. So we would have built that level of relationship already in most, if not all of the schools with the students as well as the teachers and the principal. So it is not that we are reinventing the wheel and coming up with a novel idea that did not exist before. We may just be tweaking it somewhat and enhancing the model somewhat, whereby we want that level of collaboration and partnership. So all parties would be on the same page, and we, at the end of the day, would create and maintain a safe environment for our children.
Inspector, do you think we're going to see a return to a different sort of culture? For example, maybe 20, 30 years ago, we lived in a space where police officers would be there on the road, let's say around 3:30, 4 o'clock, and would be directing children to go home, especially if they were loitering. Is this something that we will see a resurgence of and hopefully come back towards that community lifestyle?
Well, that is the end goal. It is the intention for these officers not only to function and operate inside of the schools, but within the vicinity of these schools. So similar to what you just said, I remember when I was a young officer in 2000, and when I passed out in 1998, I had the responsibility to ensure that children, after school over, there is no loitering. And yes, you can be charged for loitering in the day once you do not have a valid reason or a valid excuse. But we are not about adopting punitive measures. What we are about is to interact with the children, communicate with them that, when school over, find yourself in a maxi or a taxi, as the case may be, if you are waiting for your parent, to ensure that where you are waiting, it is safe, and you are not engaging in any activities that is untoward, deemed antisocial, or involved in criminal activities, because as they say, the devil find work for idle hands. So that is the approach that we want to adopt, not a confrontational approach, but a collaborative approach from a community policing perspective, having that level of conversation with the children so that they can see police officers there to assist and not to harass or bother or bully them as we see in Trinidad and Tobago, but to build that level of relationship with the children so they can see the police officers as the friendly, so that they can now approach those officers in the event of any eventualities and build that level of relationship so that we can bridge the gap between the public and the police to build back that trust.
Of course. And Inspector, let me say thank you very much for joining us this morning and for sharing this information with us. And we definitely want to wish you and the TTPS all the best on this enhancement of the venture. And we look forward to seeing the results, the positive results of it in our nation's schools. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your day. That's Inspector Kurt Callender of the TTPS joining us to just share some back-to-school safety tips. Of course, parents and students, be mindful. Brand new school term, brand new school year starting today for most schools, and we urge you to continue to be as safe as possible. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we kind of go into a throwback, but we also throw in forward. I'll go explain it when we come back. Don't worry.
Love and peace. Let's say thanks to the police all around, especially in town. No one couldn't walk alone.